Well, for more now on the strained relations between Turkey and Russia, I'm joined by Dr. Gulnur Aybet. She's the Head of Political Science and International Relations at Bahcesehir University. Gulnur, thank you very much for coming in and joining us. Now, these two foreign ministers have met. This is the first step in a long process of the two sides coming together.
Well, I think it's good that they met, and because at the climate summit in Paris, Putin had refused to meet with President Erdogan, although Turkey had shown a goodwill by trying to initiate diplomatic relations after the crisis. So I think in order not to be seen as the side that's not being responsive to goodwill, I think Russia didn't have any choice but to accept this meeting. But as Lavrov said before the meeting, that they would like to hear something different from Turkey, and then they said we didn't hear anything different. It's very unclear as to what they really expected to hear, because they've been demanding an apology, and Turkey said that they won't because they're the ones whose airspace has been violated. And we know that this has now been confirmed by Turkey's NATO allies and the United States. And both NATO and the United States have said that Turkey does have a right to defend itself. Absolutely. So Turkey's in the right place for not apologizing. I think everyone except Russia, every other country except Russia is backing that. But on the other hand, if there's going to be no apology, this war of words, as you put it, is actually quite dangerous, in the sense that Russia is really insisting on this Turkey buying ISIS petrol story, which has actually been refuted by, again, Turkey's allies. So, and now they presented some evidence, and that's been refuted by actually a number of journalists who are quite familiar with the field, and they say there's lots of flaws with the evidence they produced, because it actually goes through Kurdish areas, which is, impossible. So, it's very unclear as to what difference the Russians really expected when they're actually laying down these things, accusations of, working with terrorists. What do they expect Turkey to say that's going to be different if you make accusations like this? So,
well, of course, those accusations go back and forth, and as you say,
they go back and forth.
They've been unproven. But let's go back to where this all started from. Of course, the villages in the Turkmen mountains that were being attacked by Syrian and Russian warplanes. This is where it started. This is where Turkey said that there would be serious consequences. Do you think that will be discussed by the two foreign ministers in Belgrade today? Yes,
I think, it would be unrealistic to expect that they wouldn't discuss the situation in Syria. Of course, that must have come up. After all, the Russians are now hitting targets that are not necessarily Daesh, but the opposition that are fighting Assad. So I think this is all stemming from one thing. At the G20 summit, Russia, particularly Putin, symbolically looked like a very isolated man. And I think, especially after the Paris attacks, that made him feel very sad. I mean, I saw a very sad Putin, that he wants to be on the international stage as a legitimate actor in the global fight against terrorism. And I think all the other participants were saying to him, directly or indirectly at the G20, that, well, actually, you're not, because you haven't really been involved in fighting ISIS. You're just in it to protect Assad. And I think, that we can read these accusations against Turkey in that frame, because they want to, be the country that's fighting ISIS, but they're not. So, they're trying to legitimize their position with the wider coalition as well. So I think this is where this is all stemming from.
Still, I guess, a long way to go before there's
still a long way to go. But obviously, the fact that they're talking means that neither party, particularly the Russians, do not want to see this escalating. Absolutely. So that's one good thing.
Well, Gulnur Aybet, thank you very much again for coming in.